Welcome back to the Hangin With Web Show. I'm GW Pomichter. Thank you so much for logging on, tuning in. Go ahead, subscribe. Click the little bell so you get notified. You come back over and over again. We've got authors, artists, filmmakers, musicians, creative minds of all kinds. And we are here in St. Augustine, Florida, and we're hanging with author, award-winning author, Laura Hawks, the author of Shifter's Journey. Laura,
Hi,
thanks for
nice
hanging
to meet
with us.
you.
Nice
My
to meet
pleasure.
you. All right, well, first of all, for all of you out there, probably around college age, and you just finished that 14-page paper and you lamented over that in your beer, I want you to see this. Okay? That's a writing project. And it was much more fun than that paper you just wrote, too. So, Shifter's Journey. Tell us about Shifter's Journey.
Well, Shifter's Journey is actually book 3 of a series called Spirit Walkers Sagas.
Okay.
And it's a Native American theme. You don't have to read them in order, which is nice. But they're Native American. Each one is a different tribe. Each one has a different story to it. With this particular one, it's Cheyenne. And it's about a newspaper reporter from today's century who accidentally goes back in time to 1895 Colorado. Gets involved with the gold rush, with the gold mining procedures, with the removal of the Indians off the Pikes Peak area land, and then also with the Harvey Girls, which had just started up at that time. She becomes a Harvey Girl in order to survive the 1895, so she can figure out how she can get home. And she realizes that some of the Harvey Girls are missing, so newspaper instincts take in effect, and she starts trying to solve this mystery. But she also falls in love with 2 men, a cowboy who helped save her when she first realized that she was back in time, and then a Cheyenne Indian that she kind of becomes hooked up with as part of the things that are going on. So does she stay?
There's a lot going on in
Yeah, it's so thick.
No wonder it takes 600 pages. There's a lot happening. First of all, time travel, journalism, mystery, romance. We have the Native American culture. We have the Old West. We have culture shock because you have someone coming back.
Yeah, she's going around. I've got a scene in there where she's going around trying to figure out why her cell phone's not working.
Which one would do? Look, if your iPhone dies because you're time traveling, that's
no service. She had no service.
No service. That's a whole other set of problems. Oh man.
Yeah,
So I will ask you the same thing that your mother did. What were you thinking? Where did this come from? Wow, man.
Well,
and it's part of this is the third one in the series.
This is the third one in the series.
Okay.
This one is the only one
you've
thus
been
far
crazy
that's time
a long
travel.
time.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Way back when.
Way back. And before the first book came out. Okay, so what inspired this?
Well, this particular one, I was inspired by a trip to Colorado and Deadwood, South Dakota. And I kind of wanted to write a cowboy story. I wanted to do a time travel story. But I'm inspired mostly by the Native Americans. I went back to college and got a master's in U.S. history, Native American history and culture, and ancient civilizations. And I wanted to originally write Native American history from their perspective.
Okay.
And I found it was too dry. So I shifted a little bit and I said, gee, I wonder what would happen if. And so that set off the beginning of the series. And so basically with
the writer's favorite question.
Yes.
What if?
What if?
Because all manner of hijinks ensue from one question. What if?
Yep. What if this happened? What if that happened? What if these Native Americans could shift into their spirit guides and obtain some of the powers that these animals had as a guide? And so that was kind of the inspiration for it. So as part of my Native American series, it's kind of choosing where I want to put them and what the goal for the series is to do a different tribe for each book and to cover as many tribes as possible.
That's fantastic.
The first one is Ojibwa, the second one is Comanche and Kiowa, this one is Cheyenne.
Wow.
So, and the next one will be, I haven't fully decided yet. I know where the murder is going to occur. It's going to be at a powwow. But I haven't decided what lead Native tribe is going to be the main character in it yet. So,
you know, in writing a great fictional tale, but coming from the academic side of things, what are the challenges for you in writing a great fiction piece around the Native American community and staying true to all of the history that you know? Just diving in.
And particularly making sure that you represent the Native Americans respectfully and the way that their culture entails. I mean, they didn't have a perfect culture, but neither did we. But at the same token, how did they accept it? How did they change and adapt? How did they deal with a lot of things? Like with the second book that I have, I actually deal with the attempted cultural genocide of the Native Americans by taking them from their ancestral homes and putting them into boarding schools, cutting their hair and
forcing them to speak English,
yes,
forcing them to wear what became Western, or not, but back then was Eastern clothing.
Correct.
And when you look at that, you look at it and say, when you look at fiction especially, we have, it is, I always tell people that writers and creative people generally tend to lead the waves of social change. But this is an area, culture, the American culture in particular, is an area where we've woefully failed, because our predecessors, the dime store novel writers and those people, we took a culture we didn't understand, and instead of saying we didn't understand it, we tried to compress it into a single aesthetic. I mean, this is a colorful, I mean, all of the American tribes, but the Western Americans have very colorful communities. We condensed it all down to basic brown. Yeah. And, so
and they're so diverse. And a lot of people don't realize that, a black hawk is entirely different from a Blackfoot.
Yes.
Who's entirely different from a Cherokee. And their experiences are different. And, you're not going to have the same experience for Sequoia, who is Cherokee, to Chief Joseph, who was Nez Perce.
And in an era of, we live in an era of supersonic high-speed travel, whether it be by rail, by plane. We can see the world on our phones on a small screen. And we tend to forget that geography played an incredible role in development of culture in an ancient civilization.
Yes.
And so all it took was a couple 100 miles to completely change the language, the clothing, the traditions.
Correct.
The entire culture was transformed from South Texas to North Texas.
Yes.
Let alone from East Coast to West Coast.
I know.
And so when you're doing these stories and you're trying to be as faithful as you can in the research, what role does your academic background play in informing your choices for your characters?
Oh, majorly, because I will find, knowing what I want to write, or in some cases, knowing the tribe that I wish to discuss, will form the background of the story itself. But I go back onto my master's degrees and I pull out my own research books. I've made acquaintances, like for the second book, I actually talked to the chief of the tribe in Fort Sill to get some of their background with how the kids were taken and put into these boarding schools, what some of these boarding schools were like. He sent me pictures. Even to this day, the tribes at Fort Sill still have dirt floors. Even though they have structures, they still have dirt floors to this day. This is 2019, people.
And between the poor funding and poor care for the reservations that were set up, they were set up and then forgotten about.
Right. Or trying to be converted and then given up on.
That's right. And then in that process of trying to Easternize them or Americanize them or whatever you want to call it, in those days, to assimilate them.
Right.
We did something that we've never done since, which is, instead of making their culture a part of the assimilated culture, we tried to eliminate it.
Right.
And in doing that, we forced the tribes and the elders to cling to not just the culture, which would have been amazing, but oftentimes the technology of the day. They just clung to everything.
Yeah.
You're trying to take everything away from me, I'm going to cling to everything.
And the problem with that is that a lot of their traditions were passed down by word of mouth. So they would be like playing telephone when you were a kid. It gets changed as it keeps going down. So there was a little bit of that problem too that you kind of see when you do some of the research and some of the talking.
It would be interesting to see how, and it's also impossible, by the way, this is the writer's question. It'd be interesting to see how Native culture in America would have evolved
had they been left alone,
unmolested.
Yeah.
Because in theory, the Indians compared to the cowboys, technologically there wasn't a huge difference. Sociologically, there was a massive difference in terms of, social structure. They tended to stay rural, we were more urban. But there wasn't a huge, vast difference there. There was a couple of hundred years.
Well, not until you got the Europeans first landing, because they're the ones that introduced horses for the Apache and the Comanche and all of the horse-faring warfare tribes that you're so used to. But you also have the introduction of all the diseases that literally wiped out so many of the tribes before they even had a chance.
But it would be interesting to see how those tribes would have evolved naturally.
Right.
I mean, through Europe, we evolved from primitives to city dwelling, whatever, and they had their own natural evolution going on that was stifled by the waves of immigration, not just, by the way, from the east across the United States, but from the south, because the Spanish were coming up through Mexico and places. So they were getting it from all quarters.
I think you could probably see a little bit of the evolving by looking at some of today's Native Americans down in Central America. The Peruvians, the Mayans, the Incas, because they still have clung to so much, but yet they've adapted at their own pace.
Grown, yes.
At their own pace, without being forced as we did in North America.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, so we did say we introduced you at the top of the hour, or at the top of the interview, as award-winning author. So tell us a little bit about that.
The Paranormal Romance Guild has given me an award for the second book of this series, Shifter's Pride, for 2018 Reader's Choice. This one just won 2018's Reader's Choice Award. It also helped win the Best Series for Reader's Choice.
Congratulations.
And then I have another book, Snow White and the Seven Cannibals, which also won a Reader's Choice from the Paranormal Romance Guild.
And wow, we're going to drop links in the description so you can find the Shifter's Journey books as well as Snow White and the Seven Cannibals, because Seven Cannibals. Really? You don't need a reason why, just read. So click those links and check it out. In the meantime, we're going to thank our partners and our friends at Sunday Magazine, Famous Faces and Funnies, Space Coast Comics, and our great friends at Indie Originals, J. Bauer Art, Celestial Healings, Krypton Radio, the Foxwood Wine Company, and Off the Chain Radio with author Yvonne Mason. We also want to take a minute to thank the Cogler Emporium for providing some amazing decor for our set this weekend. Fantastic steampunk designs that they make themselves. They really are. Guys, remember to subscribe. Remember to share these creative artists all over the web. Log on, tune in, come back and see who we're hanging with next.